Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. Thank you for joining me here this morning on Tell It All Tuesday here on Unfiltered Vision News. And with that, let's get to our Kids Corner.
Well, 6-year-old Ryan was about to learn that some things are richer than gold, like kindness and hard work. One bright morning, Ryan's father told him to visit their farmland outside the city. Ryan thought it would be boring, but he had no idea what he was about to discover. At the farm, Ryan met Taro, a kind farmer boy his age. Taro didn't have fancy clothes or toys, but his big smile made Ryan feel strangely happy. Taro showed Ryan how to water the plants and feed the animals. Ryan's soft hands got muddy, but for the first time he felt joy that money couldn't buy. At lunchtime, Ryan saw Taro sharing his small meal with a bird. Ryan realized that being rich wasn't about owning things, it was about sharing from the heart. Before leaving, Ryan gave Taro his smartwatch. Taro smiled and handed him a small plant, saying, "This will grow if you care for it like a friend." Back home, Ryan placed the plant on his window and whispered, "True riches grow when we share." From that day, Ryan's heart bloomed with kindness. True happiness doesn't come from what we own, but from what we give. Sharing makes hearts rich and turns small moments into treasures of kindness.
Yes, and so let's remember, as they say, sharing is caring, right? And so, with that, let's get to honoring God with our body. So, God, please help guide our mind and our thoughts. God, help me to fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So, I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, please protect our ears and help us listen to your voice. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, please protect my eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over my mouth. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help our hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone, and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. God, please protect my reproductive organs and help me to honor you, God, with purity. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please protect my feet as I walk along your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And if you are just new to Unfiltered Vision News or just joining us this morning, that is a prayer that we say every morning just to set our hearts and our minds right. It may change, but right now, that is the prayer focus for right now, to honor God with our bodies. Now, let's get into some of this news that's been going on. We've got a couple of trending topics that I want to share with you guys that I found on X. So the first one is, I want to say it's more state, local. It's to Georgia. And this one I found very interesting. And waiting for it to come up on screen for you guys. And it says Georgia Democrats suggest punishing Trump voters by cutting internet access. So Susan Karatosos, she is running for Georgia's Republican um, leaning House District 120. And she posted the 40-second video clip on her account, Susan for Georgia account, and overlaid with state imagery and her campaign branding, ending with a call for voter suggestions. Conservatives amplified the video, calling it authoritarian and urging election day turnout against her. The backlash highlights partisan tensions in the district spanning Jackson and Oconee counties. So, if you guys aren't from Georgia, Coney County, I want to say, oh my goodness, why can't I think of the name of the city? Because my aunt lives there. I'll think about it in a second. But Jackson, I'm in Henry County. So Jackson is south of me. Oconee is further east. I will remember the city in a moment. Oh, gosh, why can't I think of this city? Because my auntie lives there. But anyway, it's out east, Oconee County. Ah, they have the. No, I'm mad at myself because they have the Augusta. There we go. I was like, the PGA Tour. Think about that. Yes. So Augusta is out towards Oconee County. So just geographically, you can think about it, it's like south and then southeast. Okay. With primaries in May and the general in November, as her campaign focuses on Medicaid expansion, voting rights, education, and reproductive freedoms. So, looking at two of those, so Medicaid expansion, so she wants to, and I think a lot of Republicans and Democrats have looked at the Medicaid expansion. I think with the Republicans, their whole stance is if it is expanded, be expanded properly, right? And just allow people to buy into it on a sliding scale, which makes sense to me, as opposed to growing more government and raising taxes to do it, if that makes sense. Yeah, voting rights. Okay, who are you protecting, right? Who are you protecting? With voting rights, it's questionable to me because they don't, there are a lot of Democrats that don't want the SAVE Act. So what are you talking about? Education, okay, and reproductive freedoms. Okay, so you want people to be able to have abortions. That's it. I think people need to just start saying that instead of these reproductive freedoms. No, just say you want people to have the freedom to kill their baby, because that's what you're saying. That's what that says to me. But let's check out her video. Let me see if I can get it done here.
Trump is gone and Democrats are back in charge. When this is all over and Trump is gone and Democrats are back in charge and we're rebuilding everything, the punishment for MAGA for voting Trump 3 times needs to be that they lose their internet access for 4 years. That they cannot post videos or comments on social media for 4 straight years, so that none of us are subjected to their lies and misinformation while we are rebuilding the chaos that they caused. The whole world and America gets to be without their BS online for 4 straight years. Can we all agree to this?
No, we can't, because we have freedom of speech. If you haven't read the Constitution, see, this is interesting to me because, like, you're running for political office in a arena where you need to actually, you may not like what somebody else has to say, but you got to respect it, right? I don't have to like what you have to say. I respect it, right? But I don't like it. I don't even have to agree with it. But there is a respect there. How dare you ever say, it's like, wow, okay. But like I said, I don't like what she has to say. She's got a right to say it. But I don't think that she should be removed from the internet. Does that make sense to everybody? Like, she should not be removed for even making the comment that she made, because she's got the freedom to make that comment, even if it would infringe on the rights of other people. She still has the right to say it. She's never going to take away anyone's free speech. It's very, I should say, grandiose of her. Because why would you ever say, we just don't agree with you and we think you're lying and I think you're lying? And even if you are lying, you still have the right to lie. It's up to me, the consumer of the information, to actually research and find out what the truth and the lies are. And we live in a time where you just don't get to sit back anymore and assume somebody is telling you the truth. Even with me, I want you guys to research me all the time. If you find something like, hey, that wasn't great, we found this, right? I want to be kept in check as well, because I'm not going to be right all the time. Just saying, nobody's perfect. Now, this next one I wanted to highlight is thieves strip copper from LA's 588 million 6th Street viaduct. So a viaduct, this little bridge that you drive under, but that's what they call a viaduct. So since opening in July of 2022 as the Ribbon of Light in Los Angeles' 6th Street viaduct has lost over 38,000 feet of copper wiring to thieves amid a citywide metal theft surge fueled by high scrap prices. The vandalism has left a 3,500-foot span dark, mirroring damage to streetlights and signals across LA, where repairs can take up to 270 days. Wow, almost a full year. So in February of 2026, the city awarded Tetra Tech a $5.3 million contract to redesign and reinstall the lighting with anti-theft features ahead of the 2028 Olympics, though full restoration may take years. Police point to organized scrapper networks as the main culprits, despite scrutiny of nearby homeless encampments. Yeah, so copper is a big, yeah, it brings some money. And it's bad. It's bad in Los Angeles. And I want to say there was, I don't know if this is the same video, but Tyler, before this year, I thought. So this is new, completed, open 2022. The bridge used the light. LA resident shows the homeless have come and stripped every light and wiring out of the bridge. Gavin Newsom's California. Let's see. Yeah, so there's supposed to be lights there on the bridge. Wow. That's crazy. That's so sad. And of course we have graffiti because, why not? During the day, you can see, right? But at night, the only lights that you would probably have would be the surrounding city lights. Okay, so here we go. Now there's finally a box that's locked, but all of those boxes should be locked. So did they have where they could remove, the boxes? You would think they would have put them in a location where other humans couldn't get to it, right? I'm just saying it needed to be situated somewhere where if something did happen, the engineer, you know what I'm saying? Like the technicians know, okay, we need to go this location to get to it. But hey, this is how we get ants, right? I'm just saying. It's really sad to see what is happening in California. Now we're going to have another little quick update here on what's happening in Iran with latest events.
For the first pilot and the second pilot, it's a remarkable exercise, demonstration of U.S. military courage, technology, power. I would encourage the President and the Secretary of Defense, consistent with operational security, share as much of that with the American public so that the American public can appreciate what goes into this kind of operation is more complicated than the bin Laden operation.
I imagine we'll get more details throughout the day. So this is what we know right now. Okay, on the map behind us, this is Iraq, this is Iran, here's Kuwait, this is Saudi Arabia. Karg Island, we've heard a lot about, should be right around this spot, right behind that white graphic. And this is the area of concentration where that missing pilot was found. This is the plane they were flying to. It's an F-15E Strike Eagle. It's been in service for decades. It's a great plane by all accounts. Crew on the F-15. Sometimes on the F-16 you get a crew of one. F-15 is always two. Meanwhile, the timeline. Officer ejects with the pilot when the jet was hit. The pilot, though, is recovered quickly, but the word does not go out that way. The officer evades capture for up to 48 hours in the mountains of Iran. He hides on an elevator ridge at an elevation of about 7,000 feet. Iran offers a reward for capture, telling the people who live in that town in the area find this American pilot now. CIA launches a deception campaign suggesting to the Iranians that we've got them and we're taking them out by the sea. So perhaps that had a good decoy effect. Jimmy, swing on over here. Here are all the aircraft, well, not even all, but some of the aircraft that were used in this. A C-130 right here. C stands for cargo. That's a giant plane. You had a few of those in the air. You had B-1 bombers that apparently were dropping 100 2,000-pound bombs on the land and targets below. And also this Reaper drone. The Iranians have had some measure of success knocking these Reaper drones from the sky. They're unmanned, but they circle in the area and they can stay up there for 24 hours at a time and look for targets on the ground. So meanwhile, this is the map we started with. Here to my left, and General Jaquin now joins our coverage. General, good morning to you. I was up late on Saturday trying to read my X feed, trying to figure out if this mission was a success and whether or not this American was coming home. What were you watching in those hours this weekend, General?
Well, much the same. I think your rundown there of the operation is first rate. It gives the American people some sense of the complexity of this thing. I'd just like to examine two other things I think that are major contributors to success. One starts with the commander-in-chief. And there's a pattern of his decision-making here. We've seen it when he went into Syria to take down the chemical weapons that Assad used on his own people. His predecessor refused to do that, and he wasn't paralyzed by the fear of failure. He saw the opportunity and seized it. Qasem Soleimani, same thing. No president had tried to kill Qasem Soleimani. Why was that? They feared adverse consequences from Iran. The president saw the opportunity to take a killer off the board who had killed Americans and did it and acted decisively. We saw the capture of Maduro, another complex, comprehensive operation that was fraught with the possibilities of failure. But the president trusted his military in being able to mitigate all of that risk and saw the opportunity and seized it, and it succeeded. And even green lighting this war that we're starting had to do with the previous 7 presidents refusing to confront Iran, and President Trump saw the opportunity to take Iran off the board as a predator, despite the consequences that could be adverse and the risk involved in this. This decision-making deserves further examination by others than me, particularly historians, in terms of what is really happening with this president, because he understood clearly that there were consequences here in the execution of this operation that could be very adverse to the United States. No hesitation, let's go get our airmen. The other thing that's a major contributor so our audience understands and why these operations become so complex. When we're in the planning phase, the military goes through a what-if drill. What are all the opportunities the enemy has to intervene in this, from early detection, intervention on the ground, intervention in the air? Every single one of those intervention possibilities are examined. Then we look at ourselves. What can go wrong with our plan? What are all the things that can happen? Maintenance failures, other misdirection, considerable amount of problems because we're human beings and we make mistakes. All of those what-if drills I'm talking about has a contingency associated with it. If we lose an aircraft, we're not going to let the mission fail. If we lose a large aircraft like the 2 MC-130s that got stuck in the mud and we couldn't get them out of there, that's not going to contribute to mission failure. We have a contingency backup to do that. And the list goes on and on. So the detailed planning that takes place by operational commanders and their staff here on all of the contingencies to deal with what could possibly go wrong contributes to the complexity, but it also contributes to the success. Huge amount of credit to everybody who had their hand in this, to include the interagency effort that's involved as well. And I say again, it starts with the commander-in-chief.
Let me ask you, sir, about the next possible step. If we pull up this map here of Iran's oil infrastructure, of course, everybody's familiar now with the Strait of Hormuz. The president has extended the deadline for Iran to open that up fully to 8 o'clock tomorrow night. I saw this morning that Iran was saying, well, could we get a 45-day ceasefire? But at that point, are we just back to square one?
Well, first of all, what the president is trying to do is get the Iranians to voluntarily open the strait based on his use of an application of force here. It remains to be seen whether they're going to take a knee and do that. What I don't think we should do is go to a ceasefire to get it open. I mean, if we go to a ceasefire to get the Straits of Hormuz open, plus some other things in the deal, obviously Iran will claim that as a victory. Why? Because we got the United States military superpower to stop the war based on our leverage over the Straits of Hormuz. They will claim victory, and they're really good at the propaganda. The impact they will have on our Arab nations and the Israelis as a result of that will be significant, because they will use it as leverage in the future to get what they want from them. We can shut down the Straits of Hormuz anytime we want, and the Americans are not going to open it up. We can't be put in that kind of a scenario. What we need to do is keep our pedal to the metal here, so to speak. The president is trying to force their hand here. And if that doesn't take place, then we go in there and militarily open the Straits of Hormuz ourselves, and at some point transfer that to our allies and partners so they can continue to pass the ships through the straits. And we're very close to ending this anyway on our terms, Dana and Bill. Our commanders have told the president, and he's used a time frame, close to 3 weeks, and we'll be about done here in terms of what we can do realistically to take down all of Iran's offensive capability to continue to be a predator in the region. So my bias is let's continue that and end it.
Would that include their uranium capabilities?
Well, I think we have plans dealing with that uranium capability. Can't get into any discussion of it here, certainly.
Okay.
But we do have plans to deal with that, and obviously that is an issue. As of right now, we know they haven't gone back in there because we monitor that situation, obviously. And if they attempt to go back in there, we're likely going to deal with that. But I think what we would prefer to do is take it off the table completely, so we don't have to continuously reattack every time they try to recover that situation. I'm not in the decision making, but I'm certain those are some of the options that are being considered.
It'll be very interesting over the next 48 hours to watch, and we shall together. General, thank you so much. Jack Keane on a Monday morning. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping this whole thing is figured out, because he's almost to his timeline where he needs to start withdrawing, right? He really only has 90 days, 60 days in, 30 days out. That's what the War Powers Act timeline allows. So we will see what happens next. Now, this next article is something I wanted to get into a week ago, and there was so much news going on last week, I could not get into it, but I really want to get into this one only because we're in election season, and I really am playing this and sharing this with you guys, not to be down on this particular person that's running, but to really open our eyes to, how should I say, controversy, right? When somebody goes, this group is being racist, or this group is being this or that, really take the time to research when somebody makes a claim like that. I think that's really what this particular situation brings to light.
Fort Bend County Judge-elect K.P. George still has an accent 25 years after immigrating to the U.S.
I thought it was much closer.
But he made history last night, no matter how you say it.
And I am the first South Asian county judge, period, in state of Texas.
A few moments later.
The Fort Bend County judge is now being investigated for alleged election fraud. Judge K.P. George is accused of knowing about fake posts made by his former campaign consultant, Thurul Patel.
Tonight, Fort Bend County Judge K.P. George was booked into jail just after 7 p.m. This is his mugshot. George is accused of posting fake racist messages to make it appear he was the target of hate during his 2022 re-election.
According to the search warrant, County Judge K.P. George not only knew Patel had allegedly posted all the awful racist remarks, he signed off on them.
Oh, puppet master. Straight up, nothing but that. Taro Patel was drafting and creating the post to put up and then getting approval. Let me know if you approve. I'll share the post with my fake account. Unbelievable. That works. Thank you. Post it.
A few moments later.
On Friday, George was charged with money laundering involving funds from $30,000 to $150,000. Prosecutors accuse him of illegally taking campaign money 6 years ago and tampering with the campaign finance report.
KHOU 11 starts right now with a breaking news alert.
And the breaking news at 4, the top political figure in Fort Bend
Now, this is in Texas, by the way. Just wanted to share that.
County. We're talking about County Judge K.P. George, convicted of money laundering.
That verdict came down in the last 2 hours.
But his removal from office following his conviction is going to be a little complicated.
So we have the first South Asian judge in the state of Texas faking hate crimes against himself and is now a convicted felon. Here's a message from our sponsor, Claude Note Pro. All right, let me ask you something.
Bend ISD School Board for 5 years defeated longtime incumbent Robert Hebert.
Now it looks like county's elected officials are a reflection of the demographic of Fort Bend County. I believe you need to get out and connect with people, and you need to go out and tell your story. And when you talk to people, be genuine about it. When I tell you, Jason, I care about you, better mean it.
Now, that's a feel-good story, but less than 2 weeks after K.P. George takes office, prosecutors allege that this is where he starts laundering money.
Beginning on January 12, 2019, that's less than 2 weeks after he took office. Now, the documents don't specifically state where the money came from, but it's described as, quote, the proceeds of criminal activity, the amount between $30,000 and $150,000.
Now, during that election, an online account popped up. The name was Antonio Scallywag. Now, remember that name. Antonio Scallywag is going to be really, really important to our story. Now, Antonio Scallywag went on Facebook and started attacking the judge for being Indian running for judgeship in Texas. Now, these attacks were racist, and the judge even made a statement about these attacks.
Well, Fort Bend County's top elected official is speaking out over what he says is a rise in hate speech towards him ahead of the November election.
ABC 13's Jonathan Bruce is in our newsroom with details and his opponent's response.
Fort Bend County Judge K.P. George is an Indian-American immigrant, and he was elected by the county in 2019. He says he's gotten forms of hateful rhetoric before, but now he says just over a month from early voting in the November election that the hate speech is, quote, at an all-time high. And get this, he's calling on his opponent to put a stop to it. Now, on Monday, George's office shared a letter with ABC 13 describing a rise in racist and xenophobic messages towards him on social media. He also posted the letter on his.
Now, here's the thing, and I'm going to keep saying this. Yes, this person is of South Asian descent. This person is not black nor white. You cannot play the race game. You can't, because you're not a race. You're an ethnicity. South Asian, that's not a race. Sorry. It always cracks me up like somebody's being racist. Do you really know what racism is? Racism is actually taking a collective group and disparaging them and doing something threatening towards them. Not words, like you actually physically harm them. Nobody's physically harming you. What are you talking about? Now you can say there's been an assault against you. You know, if someone's saying mean and cruel things against you, it's still not racism. Because you're not a race. It like I said, it is hilarious how the word has really been watered down. Now you can say somebody's being prejudicial, they are being discriminatory. Yeah, okay, fine. It's not racist. Y'all say it like you can play the race game, and like I said, I find it hilarious.
Facebook page, along with screenshots of some of the comments. Now, we chose not to reshare those hateful messages, but in an interview today, George estimated that over the past few weeks, his office has received more than 100 of what he called, quote, hateful conversations. So I asked the judge what he thinks is the reason for the rise.
It is about the election. There is a midterm election coming. I am on the ballot for re-election, and that's where last maybe few weeks, maybe a month or so, it started heating up. This has to stop. And the sad thing about it is many of these people are my opponent supporters. And that is, I haven't heard anything from my opponent denouncing this action. And that is concerning.
Well, we did, in fact, hear from Judge George's opponent, Trevor Nels, just a while ago in a statement to ABC 13. You see it on your screen. He wrote, in part, this is typical from far-left Democrats. They do everything they can to turn elections into an issue of racial division to distract from their failures of leadership. Now, I asked Judge George why come forward with this now. He said he wants to send a clear message to people who do this and people who might be the subject of it that there's no place for hate in Fort Bend County.
Now, Antonio Scallywag was never found, and KP George won that election, even though it was a narrow win.
Fort Bend County judge race where incumbent KP George defeated Republican challenger Trevor Nels. It was a narrow race, and George says that he is thankful for the public's choice.
The residents of Fort Bend County spoke, and at the end of the day, that's the most powerful institution, democracy spoke.
So now let's fast forward 2 years later. KP George is the sitting judge, and his chief of staff, Terrell Patel, decide to run for one of the county commissioner seats. And he then launches his campaign with the support of his boss and mentor, KP George.
I'm Terrell Patel, and I want to show you my Fort Bend. The neighborhoods, the schools, the people that made me who I am today. My folks came to Fort Bend in the 80s from India, and I grew up in the small businesses they worked in to pay the bills. They were part of the wave that made Fort Bend the most diverse county in America. To me, we were just Texans. My service at the county, I was named Citizen of the Year and was recruited by the president to work for the White House.
Now, during his campaign for county commissioner, something very interesting happened. This guy, Antonio Scallywag, showed up and started making these racist, hate-filled attacks against Patel like he had done 2 years earlier against Patel's boss. Here's Patel calling it out.
And thank you for joining us for the second half hour of The Factor Uncensored. A candidate for Fort Bend County Commissioner in Precinct 3 is exposing the racism and xenophobic messages sent to him. Terrell Patel posted them online. The words saying, "We don't need more San Negroid humans." One person said, "He's another dirty Pakistani," but it goes on, despite Patel being of Indian descent, born in Fort Bend County, the hate still rolled in. Some saying he doesn't know English, others saying he wasn't born in America, calling him a communist and a foreigner who wants to take away their guns and freedom. Is this our America? You damn right it is. Tonight, Patel is speaking out and says these kind of attacks totally on The Factor Uncensored. Unfortunately, those circumstances are not so great.
That's right. I'm glad to be here. And look, we are always going to push back against hate, especially in a place like Fort Bend County that is so diverse.
This is where things get interesting. See, this is Andy Myers, and Andy Myers is currently the incumbent in the seat that Patel wants to win. Now, Andy Myers, being upset that his campaign was being called racist and all of his supporters were being called racist, he decided to beg the DA for Fort Bend County to look into it, to find who these racists were, to stop this attack against Patel.
Back in October, the DA's office received a request from Precinct 3 Commissioner Andy Meyer to look into who was behind several social media posts directed at his opponent, which is Patel.
So now the DA's office is involved, the Texas Rangers are involved, and we have to fast forward to June 2024. So the DA's office issued subpoenas to Facebook and Google because they wanted to know who the fake account belonged to. So when Google returned the subpoena, they found that the account data matched Patel. His address, his phone number, even his Texas driver's license number and bank card were all there in the account. And obviously some other personal information.
Meyer told investigators he recognized one of the accounts behind the comments as Antonio Scallywag. The document detailed how they linked that account back to Patel, including getting a subpoena from Facebook and Google. From there, they were able to obtain account and payment information, matching Patel's credit card number, address, phone number, and other personal data.
So police found that in a shock, it was Patel who was sending fake racist messages about his campaign to himself. So on June 12, 2024, Patel was arrested for impersonating a Trump supporter. This is crazy. A Democrat from the White House was arrested for criminal impersonation of a Trump supporter.
Commissioner score.
Yeah, police say Tarol Patel created a fake social media account, then used it to make racist attacks against himself.
Okay, so now investigators figured out that Terrell Patel was Antonio Scallywag. But remember, back in 2022, Antonio Scallywag had done these racist attacks to Judge KP George. And Patel was KP George's chief of staff. So when police looked into Patel's text messages, they found that it was Judge KP George who was allegedly ordering Patel to fake racist hate crimes against both the judge and Patel himself. Here's what investigators found.
Fort Bend County Judge KP George of knowing about and taking part in Tarol Patel's fake posting. Now, Patel, who's running for Precinct 3 Commissioner in Fort Bend County, was arrested and charged with these fake postings, making attacks against himself and other campaigns last month. He was using a fictitious name, Antonio Scallywag. But now investigators say the Fort Bend County judge knew about these fake postings against his own previous campaign. All of this in cooperation with Patel. Investigators saying not only did KP George know about the posts that were on his Facebook page, he actually told Patel, who was working as a consultant to his campaign at the time, to post these hate-filled comments on social media. This is a text message right here uncovered by investigators telling Patel what to write, and another one uncovered by investigators. This is from Patel to George, where he said, "I will use a fake account to counter them." All of this leading investigators to this conclusion right here, that the Fort Bend County judge did solicit, encourage, direct aid, or attempt to aid Patel in his misrepresentation in a campaign communications.
So authorities got a search warrant to look at the judge's stuff because it looks like he was okay in directing Patel to impersonate Trump supporters. Check it out.
Fort Bend County Judge KP George finds himself in the middle of one of the biggest political scandals in recent memory.
Now a search warrant accuses him of taking part in made-up racial social media posts with a candidate for county commissioner who is now being charged. Fox 26's Randy Wallace joining us in the studio with the details. Randy.
Yeah, Anthony, now it was shocking when Fort Bend County Commissioner candidate Tarol Patel got felony charges accusing him of making up racist rants on social media, pretending to be the victim. Now County Judge KP George is accused of not only knowing but signing off on the fake racist posts. According to the search warrant, County Judge KP George not only knew Patel had allegedly posted all the awful racist remarks, he signed off on them.
Oh, puppet master. Straight up, nothing but that. Taro Patel was drafting and creating the post to put up and then getting approval. Let me know if you approve. I'll share the post with my fake account. Unbelievable.
Unfortunately for the judge, after a grand jury saw the evidence, he was indicted.
Some more breaking news that we're following at 6 o'clock. Fort Bend County Judge KP George has been officially indicted. He's accused of using a fake social media account to attack himself and others during an election.
Judge George is right now in his second term, and this Facebook post, I want to show it to you, from exactly 2 years ago today, seems to be at the center of this criminal allegation that Judge KP George posted charged political content to make it look like he was being targeted by his political opponent at the time. That's the allegation. Specifically, this persona named Antonio Scallywag, that's what it was on Facebook, states that Team Nels had been busy removing George's campaign signs at the time. The court docs say George is assumed that identity and made that post.
So KP George is now arrested and indicted. His former chief of staff, Terrell Patel, is arrested and indicted for impersonating Trump supporters on Facebook, which, again, is insane. Now, Andy Myers went on to crush Patel in the general election.
Now to one of the most talked about races, County Commissioner Precinct 3.
Republican incumbent Andy Myers is up against Terrell Patel, who has been indicted on 9 felony charges related to suspicious campaign activity. Let's get a quick look at the results here at this hour. Myers is leading the race with 59%. KPRC 2's Corley Peel joining us now live from the Brahman Tasting and Tap Room in Richmond. Corley?
Hey, Daniela and Keith, I'm actually joined here with Andy Myers right now, and you are leading this election right now. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. 59-41, 18 points. That's pretty much insurmountable. I'm not going to declare victory just yet, but I think it'd be nearly impossible for my opponent to catch me.
Now, Andy Myers won re-election easily with 60% of the vote, blowing out Terrell Patel. So after losing the election and facing 9 charges, that guy flipped. He was facing felony charges, and he came to a deal with the DA and pled guilty.
A former candidate for Fort Bend County Commissioner has pleaded guilty to creating fake social media accounts to gain sympathy during last November's election.
Patel had continued to run defiantly for county commissioner after being charged with multiple misdemeanors and felonies last year. So today, it was a bit surreal to see him own up to his crimes, whispering his pleas of guilty for creating fake online social media accounts and then attacking his political rivals as well as himself in an effort to garner sympathetic votes, according to investigators.
He has promised to cooperate in any future proceeding that may arise out of this conduct.
Cooperate in any future proceedings?
That is correct.
Does that include the cases that are being made against KP George, his former boss?
I believe it could.
And then the judge gets arrested a second time because while they were investigating the fake hate crime issue, they found that the judge was actually committing money laundering.
Let's jump right into that story. Fort Bend County Judge KP George was arrested and charged with money laundering between $30,000 and $150,000. Fox 26's Randy Wallace is outside of the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office, where earlier today he turned himself in.
Now, the Fort Bend County DA's office did issue a statement that says the Fort Bend County District Attorney's Office filed a misdemeanor charge last year pending in County Court of Law number 5. This came after an investigation into an associate of Mr. George was expanded to implicate George himself. The District Attorney's Office has continuously stated the investigation is ongoing, and that investigation has now led to 2 third-degree felony indictments for money laundering. These charges have nothing to do, the statement says, to the pending misdemeanor charges. So again, this appears to be a whole other criminal investigation, and this time the county judge is facing felony charges that, if convicted, he could spend several years in prison.
So with that, the doors are closing in on Judge KP George. But he said, no. He's still going to fight. And the way he's going to start his fight is by leaving the Democratic Party and becoming a Republican. Here's the announcement.
The all-important announcement that I am officially joining a Republican Party. For the past few years has become very clear to me and also many others that Democratic Party has become one of corrupt and radical political ideology and positions that simply do not reflect the values of Fort Bend County families and small businesses, also hardworking residents of Fort Bend County. I have always believed in foundational American principles of faith, family, and freedom. And I realize that the Republican Party that champions these values.
So KP George ran for a 3rd term, this time not as a Democrat, but as a Republican, and this is what happened.
And county judge is another one we're watching closely, considering Judge KP George, the incumbent, switched from Democrat to Republican after his criminal charges related to his previous re-election campaigns. Judge George, in fact, finished in last with less than 10% of the vote. Daniel Wong will represent the Republican Party. come November in that race.
So KP George, his first election, money laundering. Second election, he's faking hate crimes against himself. And now he switched from Democrat to Republican and is trying to get reelected. But the voters have had enough and he is kicked to the curb. But now he still has to go through a trial for money laundering. Now there are high stakes here because if KP George is convicted of a felony, not only is he going to jail, but he loses his judgeship.
KHOU 11 starts right now with a breaking news alert.
And the breaking news at 4, the top political figure in Fort Bend County. We're talking about County Judge KP George, convicted of money laundering.
That verdict came down in the last 2 hours.
But his removal from office following his conviction is going to be a little complicated.
Well, what happens next is there's a sentencing hearing on June 16th. The law says you're removed from office upon conviction, but technically trial is not over until we finish sentencing. A judgment is not entered until that time. So Mr. George can't even appeal his conviction until that time. So when that gets finalized on the 16th, there will be language in the judgment that removes him from office. If he appeals, that will supersede the removal order, at which time we will request the judge to enter an order of suspension, suspending him from office because it's in the public interest.
On page 10 of the verdict form, verdict of the jury.
Which means, let's say if he didn't, he could literally still be a judge, you know what I'm saying, until his term is up, if he appeals the conviction. So I'm just saying, I just wanted to add that in there.
Guilty. We, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle Prasad George, guilty of money laundering, third-degree felony as charged in the indictment. In cause number 25 DCR 110889A, page 8 of the charge, verdict of guilty. We, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle Prasad George, guilty of money laundering and third-degree felony offense as charged in the indictment, signed by George C. Gleason, foreperson of the jury, on today, March 20th, 2026.
Now, George was silent when the verdict was read. He did not have.
All right, so that's the saga of KP George and Terrell Patel. Now, just to put a nice tiny bow on everything, George still has a trial coming up for the social media post thing, but prosecutors say that they may not go through with that because they're misdemeanor charges and these 2 felony convictions are enough for them. Now, if that trial for those criminal charges don't go forward, then that essentially lets Terrell Patel off the hook because he won't have to testify against his former boss. But he still has pled guilty to those lesser charges, remember from before.
Former candidate for Fort Bend County Commissioner has pleaded guilty to creating fake social media accounts to gain sympathy during last November's election.
So it seems like Patel doesn't have anything to worry about, but KP George is facing a decade in prison, and I think all told, he's going to have a problem. And I think he's lucky that the DA's office isn't going after the misdemeanors because I think they got him stone cold on that. The messages alone prove that he had some involvement with Patel.
Taro Patel was drafting and creating the post to put up and then getting approval. Let me know if you approve. I'll share the post with my fake account. Unbelievable.
Yeah, so you got that. I think KP George squandered a wonderful opportunity to show people what the American dream really is. You can immigrate to this country, work hard, and make a real difference. But it seems like the only real difference he wanted to make was either in his own pockets or make it seem that the country that gave him these opportunities was a racist cesspool. But it actually shows you the truth in this country. Racism was so hard to find, they had to manufacture it themselves. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our great YouTube stuff. My name is Nate the Lawyer. I'm out.
They manufactured it. But my whole thing is, you're not from here. And it says a lot about where you came from because you come with you. You know what I'm saying? You go where you go. So what were you involved in your home country that you thought you could come here and get away with it here? That, like I said, that's the bigger question to me. And, you know, it goes back to, there's been a lot of people that have really said, you know, we should not allow people from foreign countries. If you're naturalized, you don't get to get involved in our politics, period. Like, you can't run for office dog catcher. No, Like you don't get to run for office. Not naturalized citizens, born citizens, yes, not naturalized. Because people are over it. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you. But it also goes to the fact of, okay, now when you see somebody saying, well, this person is coming after me and this is racist, is it really? Did you set that up? Is it real? So now, because it's not even a situation of being crying wolf, you just flat out lied and created this ecosystem. Because yes, are there people out there making disparaging comments that are very prejudicial and discriminatory? Absolutely. But again, racism is something that can be proven, and it's not with words. And that's, I think people just need to look up the definition of racism. Now, when people were being attacked with hoses, right, in the 60s during the civil rights movement, I should say this. Yeah, I would say it was the voting civil rights, right? Because in 1866, they already had the civil rights law for the Emancipation Proclamation. So during the voting civil rights, close to a century later, people were being hosed down. People were being beaten with billy clubs by the police, by the way. That is racism. Because you were doing it to one specific group. You targeted one specific group and you physically harmed them. Physically, it's a physical act. It's not an act with words, it's a physical act. Is that happening to any other groups today? Bueller? Now, a lot of people say, well, that's happening with ICE. No, it's not. ICE is actually picking up people that have detainment orders that should have left here, should have been gone. And you've got mayors and governors who are, creating these sanctuary cities, which is completely illegal, in my opinion, because it goes against the Constitution, because you are harboring people here illegally. Like, what are you doing? They love lawlessness. And then they want to blame people when they want to uphold the law. It's really crazy what's happening in our country right now. But I want to say good morning to everybody. Thank you so much for joining me here on Tell It All Tuesdays. But thank you so much for always joining me in the morning. Good morning, and good morning, Cajun lady. Good morning, sassy lady. How are you? Wow, he was convicted. I know, finally he was convicted. And Spud says, someone just did a documentary on the heavy Indian population in Texas. Black Americans don't have to orchestrate hate towards us. Get these deceivers out now. It's really crazy. I'm like, why are y'all doing this? And then turning America into a third world organized crime hub. All of this fraud and money laundering is organized crime. Where is RICO? Right? Exactly. And Cajun Lay says a lot of nonsense. It really is. Oh, let's see. So Edward says, I feel very strongly listening to you that you, my dear, are racist. I'm not a racist. I'm not. Indians cannot play the race game because they are not a race. They're an ethnicity. And I'm not being disparaging towards them at all. I'm just saying, from wherever this gentleman came from, he has brought a lot of illegality with him to this country. Now, you might think, oh, well, it's racist of you to say that they shouldn't run in our elections. If you are not a natural born American citizen. Now, let's say he has a son and his son is born here, like Mr. Patel. Mr. Patel was born in Texas. And he got wrapped up into illegal activity, but he's still a born citizen of the United States. What I'm saying is people that are naturalized and then they run into our elections, their allegiance for some, not all, but for some is to their home countries that they just left. Your allegiance isn't here to the United States, even though you say it is. Your actions are proving otherwise. Now, this gentleman in Texas, he was beyond that. Like, I'm just like, whoa. Like you're into money laundering. You're playing the race game. You can't play the race game again because you're not a race. So what are you doing? And why are you doing that? You should be able to win this election on the merit, because to listen to him, I'm like, wow, he's a pretty good guy. Right? Until the money laundering happened, and I was like, ooh, that's bad. A lot of people don't know. It can get pretty tricky with campaign funds, and a lot of stuff can look like money laundering. I'm just saying, you have to be really, really on top of it with your campaign funds. Okay. But then you want to set up this whole race thing and play the race game. Like, what are you doing? And you're orchestrating it. Sorry. Yeah. You are somebody. It's really sad. And no, I do think that people that are naturalized here, they should not be able to run for political office because they do not have the best interest of the United States at heart. Not for everyone, but for a lot of them. And Ilham Omar, she's a perfect example. She champions Somalia. She does not champion the United States. She didn't care about us. She could care less. But she wants to make sure that her home country is taken care of. That's not what our representatives are supposed to be doing. They are supposed to represent the people in their district. Now you can say, well, the people in her district are from Somalia. They are. But she is championing the country, not the people in Minnesota. That's all I'm saying. Her allegiance is not with the United States, because to hear her talk about the United States, we're probably the worst place on the planet, but she's benefiting from it. Yeah. So there's that, right? Now I want to move on to data centers, because that is a big deal. We have a lot of data centers here in Georgia. But before I hit that, I got to hit the IRS student loans. I came across this, and this was very interesting. So apparently, let me pull this up. Just waiting for it to get there. Sorry, guys. Add it to the stage. It's a little bit slow this morning. I wonder why it's not adding. That's weird. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. Okay, there we go. Computer slow as usual. Really? Really? We're doing this in the middle of my show? In the middle of my show. Just a minute. Anyway, let me start reading it. But it says more than 1,000 IRS employees are jilted student loan repayment program. And I was like, huh, what is this about, right? So the IRS, employees, so these are IRS, more than 1,000 of them cheated the terms of the agreement, according to a new audit by the tax agencies. Employees messed up the documentation of their loans and repayments. The IRS also waited 2 years before initiating debt collection on the I'm probably going to mess that word up. I'm not even going to say it. Employees, the Inspector General said. So if the IRS does not debt policy, employees who committed to stay with the IRS may leave without repaying their loan benefit back to the IRS, the auditor said. The IRS also waived more than $10 million in student loan debt for other employees who took the Trump administration's buyouts last year. But many of those also broke the terms of their loan agreements. So investigators said the government ended up waiving nearly $900,000 in debt that should have been repaid, the audit said. So Alec Krutzen of the IRS Chief Human Capital Officer said in an official response to the report that they have made strides under President Trump to fix things. The IRS committed to strengthening oversight for the student loan repayment program in January 2025 and hasn't made a decision on whether to revive it yet. The agency's student loan repayment office went from 8 employees to 3 as of last summer. So Mr. Krutzen said they are reviewing the employees already in the program who were identified as out of compliance and extending service agreements to make sure the agency gets its full benefit. The IRS went on a massive hiring spree during the Biden administration, going from 73,000 employees during Trump's first administration to roughly 102,000 employees as of January 2025. Investigators said that the new report that about 9,700 employees were listed as approved for student loan repayments between 23 and 24. Wow. Mr. Trump has been on a cutting spree in the agency. So I was just like, after everybody to make sure that they're making their payments and doing what's right. Yeah, they figured out a way to, as they say, skirt the system. Yeah, so that happened. Really, really sad. Because it's like slowing down my system. Because it's probably playing videos in the background. That's probably what's going on. But yeah, so, okay, IRS, we need y'all to do better. Just saying. My goodness. Just saying. Now let's get to the data centers.
You've all seen how Siri and Google have integrated AI, right? We didn't ask for this. It's big tech. They're flipping the switch on us. And now Sam Altman, the owner of OpenAI, is out here saying that the future of AI is going to be metered like water and power. So let me connect these dots for you, because this is not a conspiracy. This is literally happening right now in Georgia. Georgia Power froze the base rates for our electric bill. And on paper that sounds good, but here's what they're not telling you. Local governments are footing the bill for brand new power lines, road upgrades, and fire stations. Meanwhile, data centers are the literal physical buildings running this AI, and they're getting billions in tax breaks. One estimate just ballooned from $327 million to $2.5 billion in breaks. That's your tax money subsidizing the infrastructure that they're going to turn around and charge you to use. So here's what really jams my Glock. These data centers, they are proven military targets now. And we're not talking about some secret bunker in the desert. We're talking about residential areas. In Fayetteville, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta, they're running high voltage power lines through over 100 properties, and that cuts through people's yards. We call that eminent domain. And they're taking it for a data center that Microsoft already signed on to use. Monroe County, Middle Georgia, is about to build 2 in residential areas, and they're using eminent domain to run liquid natural gas pipes to fuel these substations. Now, here's the part they're not telling you about why all this is happening so fast. Wall Street just flipped the script on AI. For years, these companies got a pass to lose money chasing the dream, but not anymore. In 2026, investors are demanding something they haven't seen yet, actual profits. But here's the problem. Most of these AI companies aren't even profitable. They're burning cash. So what do? They rush to build the infrastructure they're not even sure that they need, on our dime, with our tax breaks, hoping that the bubble doesn't burst before they figure out how to make actual money. If it does burst, one Georgia regulator put it plainly. He said it's like taking out a mortgage to build an addition for a roommate, and if that roommate moves out, you're stuck with the bill. So we're paying for the grid upgrades, we're losing land to eminent domain, and living next to a target that we never voted on. We're subsidizing companies that aren't paying taxes and aren't making profits. And when this AI gets expensive to run, they're going to put a meter on it and bill you again. This isn't a tech story. This is a your backyard story. So start going to your county commission meetings, because the decisions getting made right now are deciding who owns the future and whether you get a say in it at all. I like to compare it to a drug dealer. It's like we're getting the free dose right now. We're getting our first hit for free. And once we're hooked, they're going to charge us for it again.
Yeah. So it's really, from what I gathered, from what you're saying, it's almost like making these data centers, and then eventually there'll be a utility, just like you have water, gas, and electric. But we're paying for the utility to be built, and then they're going to charge us to use the utility. Sounds insane. I know, right? I was like, wait a minute. Why aren't more people talking about this? And what is going on? Right? Because you would think this would be like a huge deal. Because when they were building these data centers, I was like, well, what are these data centers even for? Like, what do they create that will help us? And everybody's like, we got to rush to have this AI boom. And it's like, do we really? Who really needs this? Because it's taking away, it's in the liability column. It's not in the asset column for humans, period. It just isn't. It is not. And so, so I say, can you list the data centers that are currently in the United States and how many are to be built? Also, is Sam Altman suggesting that data centers be metered? So it says it's not practical to list every single data center in the U.S. There are thousands of them, right? Estimates range from anywhere from 4,000 to 5,400 operational facilities as of early 2026, depending on the source. Okay, so current data centers in the U.S., the operational, roughly 4,000 to 5,400, okay, operated by 1,800 companies and providers. So major concentrations: Virginia, North Virginia, Data Center Alley near Ashburn by the far leader, with 600 to 660 that are operational. Texas, roughly 400 that are operational. And then you've got California, Georgia, Arizona, Illinois, and Ohio. And others follow with dozens to low hundreds each. Now, the top operators, these are the top operators actually using this, are Amazon Web Services, Microsoft, Meta, and Google. They're hyperscalers driving much of the AI-related growth. Equinox, Digital Reality, and others. So they're using the data centers, and they're charging us for it because they're not paying for it. We are. So overall, current U.S. data center IT power load is in the range of tens of gigawatts, right? So how many are to be built? Not sure. So the U.S. is in the middle of a massive data center boom, largely driven by AI demand from companies like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, and OpenAI partners. The pipeline: nearly 3,000 new data centers are under construction or announced planned nationwide. So in 2026, dozens of major projects: Microsoft campuses in Wisconsin, Meta in Indiana, Google expansion in Amazon in Ohio, plus the ambitious Stargate AI supercluster. However, recent reports show 30 to 50% of 2026 planned capacity may be delayed or canceled due to shortages of transformers, switchgear, grid connection, bottlenecks, power ability, and supply chain issues. Yeah, because they use massive amounts of power and water. They use like 6 billion gallons of water a day. Just one data center. Just one. Like the one that she was talking about here in Fayetteville, Georgia. Just that one. And there are thousands of these. And they do not spit out good water. They actually contaminate the water that they use. And that's to keep them cold. And nobody saw a problem with this. Yeah, this is a huge issue. So growth is fastest in states like Virginia, Texas, Georgia, and emerging areas of Ohio, Indiana, Wisconsin. So in Sam Altman suggesting that data centers be metered, yes, but not quite in the way the question phrases it. So in March of 2026, at BlackRock's U.S. Infrastructure Summit, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman says, we see a future where intelligence is a utility, like electricity or water, and people may buy it from us on a meter. Right now, I mean, I pay to use Grok. Because I'm like, okay, it's a service, I'll pay to use it so I can use it extensively. But I would be paying double because I'm also paying for the data center that doesn't produce anything. It's a liability. It's not an asset, I think, as it was posed to American people. Because I think when it was put in and people were like, yeah, this is not going to work out well for us in the long run, maybe there would be more of us to fight against it. But yeah, here we are. He is referring to AI compute intelligence services being built on a metered usage-based model, right? Pay per token or pay per query, scaled up like your electricity bill, rather than fixed subscriptions like what I pay as a fixed subscription. But now it'd be like, okay, you don't have to pay your monthly bill, but at the end of your usage of this service, then you'll be billed. So if you use whatever the meter is, 1,000, 10,000, whatever, then you'll be billed at the end of the month. Total liability. This is horrible. He's not suggesting that the physical data centers or their electricity consumption should be metered differently than they already are. They already pay utility companies for power at a discount. Right? The comment is about making AI itself a metered public style utility service. It drew some backlash online for sounding dystopian or billing focused. So data centers already face huge energy demands and associated metering billing from grids, which Altman has acknowledged elsewhere while defending AI's resource use. So I said, what type of revenue is generated by the data centers to justify the tax breaks? So data centers generate revenue for governments primarily through property taxes, but that's still us, which form the core economic justification for the tax breaks. So mostly sales use tax exemptions on equipment and construction materials, plus occasional property tax abatements. So these facilities are extremely capital intensive, right? The buildings, land improvements, servers, cooling systems, and electrical equipment can be assessed at billions of dollars per campus, creating a massive expansion of the local tax base after incentives. So here's the breakdowns key justifying 37 states. So local property taxes, the biggest and most direct justification. Data centers pay ad valorem taxes on real property in many places, tangible property taxes, even with partial abatements or payments in lieu of taxes. The sheer scale produces huge ongoing revenue. Okay. So Loudoun County in Virginia, data centers contribute hundreds of millions annually, projected up to 1.3 to 2.5 billion from equipment taxes alone, but I'm seeing often 30 to 40% of the county's general fund that has allowed tax relief for residents. I don't think so. I really think this is going to be a whammy on everybody. Like she said, it's like that drug, you get that first hit. This is going to be in the liability column. It's my opinion. So Prince William County jumped from 402,000 in 2012 to 23.3 million in 2023 and higher now. Georgia, relevant in Stockbridge, a single average data center complex can add 2.3 billion in assessed value, generating 28 million per year in property taxes. For recent Metro, who pays property taxes? That's humans. So that means they're going to be raised. They're not going to be lowered. It's not, again, not in the asset column. So state and local taxes from personal income taxes from direct jobs, right? Indirect jobs. Each direct data center job supports 6+ other economy-wide. Corporate income taxes from operators, sales taxes on non-exempt purchases. Virginia analysis found the state recoups 48 cents in new revenue and non-exempt taxes. So for every dollar of sales tax foregone, better than many other incentives. Broad economic multiplier effects, massive private capital investments drives GDP growth, wages, and supplier spending nationwide. They say the industry contributed $162 billion in total federal, state, local taxes in 2023, up from $66 billion. Ohio, $2.5 billion in breaks. Data centers generated $5.2 billion in taxes and $3.7 billion in GDP. Proponents argue 90% of projects wouldn't locate without incentives, so the alternative is zero revenue. So they're not money makers, they're depleters. And our property taxes, state taxes, whatever, have to increase to support what they're doing because they're getting a tax break just to be in the state. Just saying. So in short, the justification boils down to turning massive private investment into a vastly expanded local property tax base, plus secondary state revenues and jobs outweighing the foregone sales tax in the eyes of economic development officials. The picture varies by state and locality, and the AI-driven surge has intensified both the benefits and the cost. Because eventually, those data centers, they don't have to be really monitored by a lot of people. I think it's like 100 people per data center might work there. And then their jobs are going to be replaced eventually by robotics to where it's just self-sustaining. And it's just something that's monitored by a human. But humans won't work there. But it'll be a utility on us. Again, it's in the liability column. And it is here, and it is sad. So sad. But let's take a quick break. And thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. And we will see you on the other side.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine what's next with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? Or power off blissfully? A better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before. With the energy nature intended. Imagine reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science. At longevity. At exhilaration. It's next level rejuvenation. Take your well-being from the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. We got a little bit of feedback from Spud and Uncle Coolwater. It says, Spud says, use old closed down prisons which were already located in rural areas for data centers. I doubt anyone with good sense makes these decisions. Yeah. And Uncle Coolwater says the question is, who in government, local government, is passing this? Somebody's getting paid. Yes, they are getting paid, because again, when you get companies, they'll be like, it's the initial investment, right? Because the initial investment is like, yes, you need people to build it, you need materials for it. So initially, people make money off of it, but long term, it's in the liability column, because what is it sustaining? It's not making anything, right? The data centers aren't making anything. They are utilizing resources to exist. So they're using 6 billion gallons of water. That's one thing. They're using massive amounts of electricity to exist. What's the benefit to the residents in the surrounding area? Because there's some people, they don't even want to use computers to that extent. Anybody got a quantum computer at their house? No? Well, that's what these centers are for. They're for quantum computing, right? They are for massive amounts of AI generation. Who's using data to that extent anywhere? No one is using it, but somebody needs it. And this goes back to government. So what does government need these data centers for? I don't think, was anybody paying attention last year about that whole, I think it was like $500 billion that they were doing as an investment for Stargate and all of these AI propositions. Yeah. But at the end of the day, they are creating to build in these different areas around the country. They're in the liability column because it's not a car, right? It isn't wood that you're using to build a house. It's not steel. It's not metal. It's not anything anybody can use readily available. But they're saying, but you're using all this data. Are we really? Because we've been using AI for a while. I mean, it's not horrible. It's not great. It's a tool, right? But now you want all these data centers in place all of a sudden? Why didn't we have the data centers before we started using AI? To me, that's the bigger question, right? Who's this for? It is not for us, but we're going to be paying for it because it's going to be in your backyard. Why are they putting it close to people? Why aren't these things in the middle of the desert? Like my husband and I, we were driving through parts of Arizona and New Mexico, and we're like, there's tons of land out here where you can use it. But you know what? That's Indian land. That's tribal land. They're not giving up this land for data centers, but it needs water. There's not a lot of water in the desert. That's why you don't have a lot of data centers in California. And when they are in California, they're in certain parts where there's water. Yeah. So are we so quick to lead to our own demise? That's one of those bigger questions that we always have to ask. We are in such a rush to destroy ourselves as humans. It's so sad. But let's get into some of this news from all sides. So it says that 8 were arrested in California for fraud allegations. Left media split on the coverage. Interesting. Because, as you can see, there's Dr. Oz in the picture and JD Vance. And JD Vance has been given the task to deal with a lot of this fraud from the president. And it says 8 people were arrested on Thursday for their connection to alleged fraud schemes in and around Los Angeles. So 5 of the cases involved hospice centers that allegedly billed Medicare for patients that were not terminally ill or did not qualify for hospice services, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office. The Justice Department said that the arrest included 3 nurses, a chiropractor, and a psychologist who have reportedly defrauded the healthcare system out of over $50 million. And these are just these 8. There's more, I'm sure. So the arrests are part of an ongoing federal investigation called Operation Never Say Die. Remember I was telling y'all a couple months ago, I was like, nobody ever audits the government contracts that are awarded. There's no compliance, there's nothing. It is a self-governing system. And they just believe what people are saying, that they are doing the job, but nobody ever audits anything that happens. There's no compliance. Now there is. It's going to be interesting to see where this all goes. So a CBS investigation on March 10th released an exclusive report on its own investigation into hospice fraud in Los Angeles. It examined businesses and financial records for roughly 1,800 hospices in LA County and found that over 700 raised multiple red flags for fraud. Some of these included low patient counts, excessive billing, staff shared across multiple companies, multiple hospices clustered in one building. Where have we seen that? And terminally ill patients who were later discharged alive. How are you terminally ill and then you're alive? Yeah, weird. So the report was covered primarily by local outlets, media light that leans left. Now, Nick Shirley, he did an investigation on March 16th. YouTube reporter Nick Shirley released a 40-minute video detailing 170 million of alleged fraud in California's hospice and daycare centers. California Governor Gavin Newsom's press office denounced the investigation and posted several memes poking fun at the video. The story was covered primarily by outlets on the right and in the center. So you scoffed, but the U.S. attorney found at least 50 million in fraud. So Nick Shirley found 170 million. They found 50 million. Think there's a case to be made, right? And so this is how the media covered. Outlets across the political spectrum generally attributed the rest to President Trump and Republican crackdowns on alleged fraud in blue states. None of them mentioned the CBS report. Now, from the left, several left-leaning outlets suggested the arrests were a result of Shirley's investigation. Politico that leans left wrote, Republicans have found their health care message for the midterms fraud, saying the crackdown aims to capture voter turnout as Americans are laser focused on high cost of living. The Guardian outlined Trump's targeting of blue states and called the fraud claims baseless. It also highlighted Newsom's defense of California. CNN left and Washington Post that leans left both shared an Associated Press left article that connected the arrest to Trump's crackdown, but also outlined one of the arrests in Artesia, California, that was allegedly worth more than $8.5 million in fraudulent claims. So as of now, all side has only found CBS and Mediaite to provide substantive coverage of the fraud allegations. So from the right, the story was covered more by right-leaning outlets, which outlined the different arrests made and the dollar amount tied to each fraud claim. So the New York Post that leans right emphasized the scale of the alleged fraud. Now we know that there's waste, fraud, and abuse in all 50 states, whether they're Republican or Democrat. There's always going to be some kind of fraud, again, because the system is set up to be self-governing. There isn't an audit. There isn't compliance. And a lot of people say, well, there is oversight. They are telling them to audit themselves. If you're going to audit yourself, are you going to find yourself wrong? No, you're not. That's why the fraud is there. There isn't a compliance officer for these contracts. I used to be a compliance officer. And basically, the job in short is to make sure that if you say you've serviced 300 patients, we need to verify that you've serviced those 300 patients. We're not going to take your word that you did it. We need somebody else to come in that is a non-biased source to say, yes, this has happened. And looking at some of those situations, I was like, yeah, I could see them putting somebody in place that would always agree with them, somebody that they've paid to come and audit them. Yeah. And be compliant. Like, I can't trust it anymore. I can't trust all 50 states. Okay? I just want to let you know. All 50, all of y'all are wrong until you can prove that you've not defrauded the federal government. See, this isn't just the state government. This is the federal government. This comes with federal prosecutions. This comes with federal prison, which I'm okay with. I'm just saying. I'm good. I like federal prison for some people that have defrauded the federal government because those are our tax dollars. Now, there's a mural of Irana Zarutska, and it was removed after public criticism. That's kind of sad. They got murals of a lot of people, but apparently somebody didn't like it, that it was her. I don't know why it would be controversial. So weird. And she was the Ukrainian refugee that was killed while she was riding a train in August and was removed in Rhode Island after public criticism. So the mural was being painted on the backside of the Dark Lady, an LGBTQ plus club in downtown Providence. It received criticism from community members and city leaders for being funded by Tesla CEO Elon Musk and social media personality Andrew Tate. Providence Mayor Brett Smiley called the mural misguided and divisive, saying that while the murder was a devastating tragedy, the isolating intent of those funding the mural does not represent Providence. Mural artist Ian Gaudreau, sorry if I mispronounced his name, said he was saddened about the removal and that his goal was to humanize Ariana. That's really weird. Like, we have ants everywhere in the country. Because it was supported by somebody that you don't like, you're like, nope, we don't want to have anything to do with these people. Okay. I think everybody's drawn their line in the sand. Like, we are living in some very interesting times. Very interesting times. So a new mural, Francis Karam, he was the co-owner of Opa restaurant nearby, reached out to Gaudreau and offered for the mural to be painted on his restaurant instead. So Karam, a Lebanese immigrant, said he related to Zarutska's story and saw the mural as an opportunity to support a fellow immigrant. Okay. So the Providence Journal wrote, the new mural is being funded by Karam, who paid Gaudreau a symbolic $1 for the commission. So for context, in September 2025, Intercom CEO McCabe said he was offering $500,000 and $10,000 in grants to paint murals of the face of Ariana Zarutska in prominent U.S. city locations. Musk and Tate responded to the post saying they'd each contribute an additional $1 million for the campaign. So that's how this kicked off. It was almost like a Kickstarter campaign. Whoever's going to do it around the country, whoever's going to offer up their wall for the mural, cool. Okay, do what you want to do. Interesting. So local Providence outlets split on which narrative they emphasized. So WJAR 10 focused on criticism for the mural, quoting a Dark Lady clubgoer saying, where are all the murals for everyone that died for Black Lives Matter? Wow, I don't know, because there were a lot of Black people that died during that time. That I remember there was a Black business owner. He was trying to protect his business, I think in Minneapolis, and he got shot. Yeah, he did. He died. But who was he killed by? I don't know if he was killed by other Black people or he was just killed by just roving people. But that happened. Okay. Do we have everybody else that died? Because there was a whole bunch of people that died. Interesting. But Black Lives Matter turned into something that it shouldn't have been. It became a hateful movement that was anti-family, especially for Black people. We definitely don't want Black people having families or children or anything like that. It's okay for them to be homosexuals and transgendered and out of their minds. But no, we do not want anything good for Black people. So was Black Lives Matter really a good thing? Just saying. So WPR 12 Center focused on Karam saying the new mural was not political, but a homage to a fallen immigrant. Fox News on the right described the removal as part of a woke blowback. The article heavily quoted Gajrao, mispronouncing the name, sorry, included him saying his freedom of expression and freedom of speech had been stifled. The Independent that leans left framed its coverage within the funding coming from Musk and Tate, but included equal viewpoints from Smiley Gaudreau and the Dark Lady team in the article. Yeah, so people definitely have their feelings about where money comes from and where it's going. And there are people that are very opposed to where some money comes from. George Soros comes up a lot. And people are like, yeah, we don't want to be involved with an organization that's getting funding from Soros. But a lot of his funding, supports a lot of the protests that you see in the signs that are happening. So our country is infiltrated. And this is very telling to see where our country's at. Now, a lot of people may disagree with me on Black Lives Matter. So here's my thing. The intent when you hear Black Lives Matter is to say, yes, Black Lives Matter. We want to make sure that we are successfully making sure that Black people are okay, right? In short. But how it played out, I'm just saying, how it played out, what was on the website, that's the bad part. It was like Black people were used for a cause that actually wanted to make it worse for Black people, not better. And that's the sad part, in my opinion. That was the sad part. So why does California's high-speed rail project keep getting delayed? Because it was a ruse in the first place, is my opinion. Because in the first place, yeah, they had no intention on building this high-speed rail. That's my look. Since 2008, they were supposed to get this done, and they've wasted billions of dollars and are asking for more money. Really? Where's this money gone? So CBS News 60 Minutes probe into California high-speed rail project revealed reasons for delays and cost increases to California taxpayers, prompting criticism from media across the political spectrum. So this is what happened to the plans. California voters approved the project originally projected to cost $33 billion and be completed by 2020. That was 6 years ago. And they did this in 2008. So they gave them 12 years to get this done. However, tracks have not yet been laid. It's been over 12 years, right? First of all, it's been 18 years. Nothing's been done. And a smaller portion of the original route is now expected to be completed in 2033, a small portion. So its new estimated cost is over $125 billion, according to Speed Rail Authority member Anthony Williams. Both CBS and Mediaite that lean left noted California's strict environmental regulations as partially causing the delays and increased costs. Because, yeah, you got to deal with wind turbines, solar tracks, all that kind of stuff. Then why would you make a promise to the people that you couldn't keep and you still blew the money? Where's the money? That's all I'm saying. And you keep asking for more money. It's like the homeless situation. We're going to get rid of the homeless problem. And every year your homeless problem gets worse. You ask for more money, but the homeless problem keeps getting worse. So I don't think this whole real thing, stop it. Investigate it. Send everybody to jail that took the money and didn't do the work. That's all I got to say. That's my opinion. So criticism from politician Fox News on the right highlighted statements from Representative Vince Fong. He's a Democrat from California, who spoke with 60 Minutes, as well as President Donald Trump and Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. Duffy said the administration is working to usher in a golden age of transportation. What this administration won't stand for is boondoggle projects like Newsom's train to nowhere that wasted billions in taxpayer dollars, yet delivered nothing to the American people. Fox also included a quote from Palantir's CTO in 2024 who said, for $10 billion, Elon Musk put 300 rockets in orbit. For $11 billion, the state of California has built 1,600 feet of elevated rail with no rail. So here's my thing. Anybody been to Disneyland? Anybody been to Disneyland or even Disneyland in Orlando? So I grew up in California, so I grew up with Disneyland in Anaheim. Had a monorail system. Pretty simple system, in my opinion. When I say simple, I'm just saying they built it, right? They built it in the park. It could be built. And it was actually built with a cement and rail track, right? So it couldn't get corroded and all that good stuff. Runs fine. Runs great. I think they had to do some upgrades on it every couple of years. You know, it would be closed down for a couple months just to make sure it was running okay. But they built it at Disneyland, an amusement park, and you couldn't do anything 1,600 feet and still no rail? And you're still asking for more money. Y'all are wild. So Brightline, a private company that already opened a train running from Miami, Florida, and Orlando, Florida, has begun building a bullet train running on the median of the I-15 highway in ever. The company has not made significant revenue on the Florida train, raising questions about profitability and privately owned railways. Again, who pays for this? The taxpayer. Sad but true. One of those things. Sad facts, y'all. Sad facts, sad facts. Now let's get into it's like there's so much news and I'm not getting to all of it, but this one I want to get to. I might not play the whole video, but I think you're going to get the gist of it when I share it.
He's still not going to put a sign on there. So the next person's going to come up and get robbed if they don't pay attention.
It's running very slowly. It's not on.
It's not a theory. It's not a maybe. This is just straight up wrong. So lately, the gas prices have skyrocketed and people are out on social media voicing their concerns. Because inevitably, the cost of gas going up not only means that the cost of items will go up to transport them, but also in order for people to go to work, run their errands, everybody is having to spend more money on gas. But now people are over on social media talking about more than just their concerns with gas prices. Now we have people on social media exposing things like pumps charging you for gas that you didn't even get, nozzles leaking while you do nothing and the price continues to climb, tanks mysteriously emptying faster than usual, and one gas station straight up charging double like nobody can do basic math. And listen, I'm not the kind of person that just jumps right into conspiracy, right? But when this many weird things start happening all at the same time, yeah, we're gonna look into it.
Yeah, it's going up. No, there's no pumping, there's no gas coming out, but the numbers keep going up. That's crazy. That's at a racetrack.
All right, so we're gonna take a pause right here, and I want somebody to explain this to me like I'm 5 years old. Because if I'm standing there, not squeezing the handle, no gas is coming out, why is the number going up? How is the number going up? Why is the number going up? Like, I'm sorry, but in what universe are we paying for imaginary gasoline? And I know what some people are gonna say. It's the pressure, it's the calibration, it's a glitch. Okay. Cool. Then why is the glitch charging me? Because if the pump is wrong, the transaction should stop, not continue billing like it's on autopilot. And this is how people lose money in tiny amounts without even realizing it. It's not enough to like cause a big scene, or sometimes not even enough to be noticed, but it adds up. And there is not just one video of people showing this happening. There are more.
Ever wonder why your gas isn't lasting in your car? You're paying for the fumes.
It's running very slowly. It's not on. There's nothing on. But it's still moving.
My brother was pumping my gas, but there was no gas coming out and the pump was still running the meter.
Oh my God. These are all different gas stations, all different cities, all different regions. It's not the same gas station. This is not an isolated incident. It is a problem.
Yeah, because I thought I was tripping. Look how the gas coming out. Bitch, look at this shit. Look how this gas is coming out. Look, y'all.
Yeah.
Oh, hell no.
There's trickles coming out, but it's charging like all this kind of gas is coming out.
Nope, absolutely not. Why is the gas just leaking out? Nobody is squeezing the handle. It is just falling out. And someone is being charged for that. So we've moved on from maybe it's just a glitch to I'm literally paying for gas that never even entered my car. That's insane. And here's the thing. It's not even subtle. You can see it happening, which means either the equipment has been completely neglected or they're just simply hoping that people don't pay attention. Because if you're distracted, you're not watching the meter. And if you're not watching that meter, you're paying for a parking lot to get hydrated.
I know it doesn't look like much, but I literally just pulled out from getting gas. I literally filled up my entire tank and I checked it. Are you fucking serious? The price of gas is already twice the amount now, and it's not even lasting. It's not even lasting. I don't know if they're watering down our gas. I don't know what it is, but it needs to freaking stop. I'm tired of it. All my money's going down the drain.
Now, this is the part of the video where people start getting really suspicious. Because how do you fill up and then suddenly you're a quarter of a tank down when you just pulled out of the gas station like 2 miles ago? That doesn't make sense. Now, I'm gonna be fair here because not everything is a scam. There are reasons that this could be happening. Driving habits can change, more idling, they're blasting your AC. Short trips just burn fuel faster. But if you know your car and then suddenly gas is disappearing way faster than usual, you're gonna question it. Anybody would. And now people are throwing around the idea of watered down gas.
Everyone's been complaining about gas prices, but have you been paying attention to your mileage? This man was driving through his neighborhood when he noticed something and was then able to catch it on camera. Because as he was driving, he was noticing that his gas mileage was dropping significantly, starting at around 352 miles per gallon left. As he's driving between 15 to 30 miles per hour through his neighborhood, steadily watching this go down. This man was only driving a few yards and was losing miles from his gas tank, questioning if he had filled up with gas that was actually water. Having only driven a few blocks, his gas tank looked as if he had already driven over 10 miles. Looking just in the span of less than 1 minute, he went from 352 miles per gallon, ending the video with only 348 miles left, meaning he burned the gas that he should have burned driving 4 miles in less than 2 city blocks. What is this exactly that would cause the gas mileage to literally plummet when you are driving a slow and steady speed through a neighborhood? I was always under the belief that if you got watered down gas and your engine would sputter and like make noises as if it wasn't getting that consistent gas flow, this car was driving steady with no issues, except that this car was burning through the kind of fuel traveling feet that it should have been burning traveling miles.
Alright, so peep this. Now they're messing with the gas. Ever since the gas prices have skyrocketed, I have noticed a significant decrease in the gas mileage I get in my car. Now, a little context, I have a newer car. with a turbo. I run premium. So for those of you that run premium gasoline in your cars, you know the difference between the points. And if you were to run, say, regular gas, you would notice a significant decrease in mileage and overall performance and things like that. Now, since these gas prices have gone up, and I Uber on the side as a side hustle, so I pay very close attention to this kind of stuff. And I started noticing a few days ago that I had to fill up again in the middle of the day when I normally wouldn't have to fill up again until the next morning. And I haven't changed my driving habits, distance I'm going, anything like that. But since these gas prices have gone up, I'm about to run my third tank now and really test this. I have noticed that I am getting about 100 less miles per tank still running premium. Now, for those of you at home watching this wondering, hey, I wonder if that's a thing, I want you guys to do this little experiment as well. If you know what you typically get for mileage, you know, set your thing to be able to check the mileage you're getting during each tank. I want you guys to go ahead and fill up your gas tank and see if you're getting the same gas mileage as before. And I can guarantee you that you are not. So, what are they doing? Well, I wish I had an answer to that, but I know I'm paying $5 a gallon right now, and I'm not getting the same mileage that I always get, and I got a brand new car. Make that make sense.
And then just today, EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, if you missed it, in consultation with the Department of Energy, announced a temporary emergency fuel waiver to allow nationwide sales of E15, gasoline blended with 15% ethanol, to remove all federal impediments to selling E10 gasoline across the country. The emergency fuel waiver will temporarily waive the summer low volatility requirements and blending limitations for gasoline to provide additional flexibility to the fuel marketplace. So as far as tankers through the strait, something we're tracking very closely, but obviously the administration is coming up with creative new solutions by the day to keep the price of oil stable, something the president wants to see. And I know Secretary Bessent, Secretary Wright, Secretary Burgum, EPA Administrator Zeldin are all working together closely to find ways to do that.
That's sad. Let me read that for those of you out there, because it's just on the screen. It says, increased ethanol content in gasoline makes the fuel burn faster in terms of flame speed. But it also causes the engine to consume more fuel because ethanol has a lower energy density than pure gasoline. Yeah. We need, what is it called? Plastiline? I need some of that plastiline that's being created. Because apparently all you need is a little bit of plastiline and it can run for hundreds of miles. So wherever that creator is, we need to keep him alive, number one. And number two, we need to figure out how to mass produce plastiline right now, because this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. But I will definitely leave I'll repost the link so you guys can watch the rest of that video. But it just really goes on to just show different ways in which people are fueling up their cars and the fuel is just not going as long. It's like, what have we done? Right? This should be getting better, not worse, but it's going to be a rough time. And I know a lot of people say we need to use electric cars. Guess what? Electricity runs off of fossil fuel. So you're still going to need coal. You're still going to need oil to produce electricity for your electric cars. And it's not a guarantee that your electric car, that battery, will actually produce what it's supposed to. Right? We've gotten ourselves in a pickle as a society, and we really haven't looked at alternative, right? Real alternatives to gasoline. Like I said, I like the plastiline. If you guys haven't seen it, definitely look it up. I want to say they did an experiment where he put some plastiline in a high charge vehicle. When I mean that, it's like a power vehicle, like a muscle car type car, and the car ran fine off of plastiline. And plastiline is basically taking all the plastic garbage, really, and recycling it into a fuel, right, that does not corrode the environment. So he thought about all three pieces: taking trash, repurposing it, and then when the fumes go back, it actually goes in a good way into the environment, so it doesn't cause any pollution. So he's really, really a great chemist, and I'm really hoping that we can find more ways to utilize energy. And I think this is a good time. It's in times like this that we need to be innovative. It's one thing to complain, but really let's think about some solutions so that we can have a better tomorrow. But thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. We'll be back tomorrow with Women in Wellness Wednesday. So thank you so much for joining me here. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.